The intention is to blow your mind with this video, with some of the concepts I'm going to talk about. I've talked about some of the concepts in my other videos, but I wanted to compile them here into a grand masterclass about how I have been feeling about the simulation. Without further ado, let's get started. Welcome everyone to the Magical Frequency. On today's episode, we are going to be discussing the simulation, and I'm going to be doing a version of a masterclass for how to explain that we're living in a simulation, how to maneuver in the simulation, and how to get what we want out of the simulation. And I do believe this is all created within the simulation. And I'm going to start all of my videos with this very special slide explaining that everything is you, and all of the things that we are discovering here are inside of you, and they are a mirror. Things I want you to take away is looking at everything as a program within the simulation. You, me, everything. Your gurus, awareness, the I am, all the esoteric knowledge, religions, states, principles, stuff from the Kabbalion, universal laws, all levels of consciousness, all of the quantum shifting, observation, science, everything that you could possibly talk about, no matter from which author it is or from which guru it is, text that you think that you're looking at or that you're uncovering or trying to come up with some spirituality meaning to everything. These are all just programs within the simulation, things that we've created as 3D humans here. And I think the closer that we all understand this, the closer that we'll get to reaching that level of understanding that these are all just you spitting out things over and over again, regurgitating the same information through millions, trillions, billions, whatever you want to say, an infinite number of means. And all of these means are through other gurus. They're just all awakening you to the information they believe that they're uncoding within everything that's in the simulation. If that's a Bible, if that's a Kabbalion, whoever it is that's taking these things, taking these principles, ingesting them, and then regurgitating them to the mass or whatever, the consciousness. It is all the same thing. So once we start to recognize that, I think that shifting or maneuvering in the simulation becomes much easier. I've created this simulation to come and experience as a game. Consciousness has many dimensions, and I'm going to read off to you all of the dimensions so we have a firm understanding of what that looks like, what dimensions mean, because everybody kind of just throws these concepts around. So let's talk about them. 1D is a straight line which has only length, no width or height. Okay. 2D is the 2-dimension, a flat plane like a piece of paper with length and width, but no depth, like a square or circle. So I believe that this is the building program of the simulation. It's the simulation in static, kind of. Imagine static, that's the 2D. That's that whole checkerboard effect that I believe is the 2D plane of consciousness. That's where we start to begin to be plugged in to this reality where we can experience things, where we're not floating as eternal love in the ethers. This is why we see phosphenes, okay? That's where this is going to start to come into play. That's the point where there's nobody else talking about. This is a idea very unique to myself. That's why I promised some mind-blowing information in this video. Yes, that 2D phosphenes, once we're plugged into the simulation, so to speak, once we have absorbed the fact that we are now in this program, that's when we're going to be able to discern visually the things that we see around us. So let's keep going. 3D, 3 dimensions. Objects we interact with in the real world, which have length, width, and depth, like a cube or sphere. hallucinogens merge 2D and 3D aspects of the 4D. And this is why things like hallucinogens merge the 2D and the 3D with aspects of the 5D. This is why people are able to see things that they're not usually able to see in altered states of reality. They're basically illuminating other pieces of consciousness and unfolding it into the 3D, so to speak. You are creating your own hologram within the 3D through the modality of being able to alter your perception. Certain substances do allow the visuals of things that defy the laws of this universe. When people can see things floating, I have heard stories of people seeing things floating or changing objects in front of them. I've heard stories where people have been in front of a mirror and they were able to transmute their face into various different people because they were under some sort of influence, some sort of altered state. So you're able to then visually interpret the 3D the way you want to. Now, these are alternate states in a very short amount of time. I don't know anybody from this 3D reality that is able to maintain that level of shifting the sim, because again, I do believe this is a program. We're meant to follow some sort of time programming, and time is a program. That's why it doesn't exist. We can alter the program of time. Let's keep going. So in the 4th dimension, this allows us to experience change, sequence, and the flow of events. That's what I was just talking about, entropy. In my opinion, this allows the simulation to regenerate. This would be the program or concept of time, like I mentioned before. Let's talk about the 5th dimension. This is seen as a higher realm of consciousness. Unity, rapid manifestation, where time is non-linear and reality is more fluid and interconnected. It's being or vibrational frequency than a physical location. So that's when we start getting into these higher states of consciousness where you're floating, I don't know, in the ethers. I've never been there, so I can't completely articulate what it is to be in all of these different dimensions for extended periods of time. Achieve these dimensions in short periods of meditation? Absolutely. But I am not walking around in this 3D seeing things in like a 5D perspective on autopilot, okay? Because I don't think that's why we're here. I do believe the 3D is a component of the simulation for us to be able to come down and experience. And the point of life is to experience and expand. That's the point of the simulation. It's to be able to have consciousness come in and play out itself in whatever amount of experiences it could possibly create. So it is constantly evolving. It is constantly maneuvering and manipulating itself and that's why consciousness is at the epicenter of all of these dimensions. We are just constantly reawakening over and over, because what fun would it be if we knew everything? It wouldn't be a surprise anymore. What would be the point of playing a game if you knew exactly how the journey would end? It is up to you to figure it out during that journey, and it's up to you to make it difficult for yourself, or if you want to make it easy for yourself. And it's not always easy to understand this at first. It takes a lot of inner knowledge and research, in my opinion, to come to these understandings. So let's talk about the 6D. All possible worlds or alternate realities that differ from our own based in the original conditions of the universe and laws of physics. While the 5th dimension covers alternate timelines from the same starting point, our universe's Big Bang, the 6th dimension contains all possible timelines with different initial conditions. Infinite number of timelines. There's an infinite number of possible scenarios, and that's what the simulation is intended for, to run through all the scenarios. A never-ending number of scenarios, so the simulation, in my opinion, will never end. I know some people like to say that, but I feel like it's more of a regenerative, we start over again and we'll be right back circling again. 70, adding access to universes with completely different physical laws. While 60 gives you all the possible outcomes and variation of one specific set of physical laws, 70 includes everything from universes with different forces of nature, constant and fundamental particles. So this means that there's other alternative realities that are nothing like our universe, to where could we be going there on the next life track? Or could we go visit some cool universe in the future to be able to come out of our consciousness again, to experience the expansion? We could become on a planet with purple people and there's no such thing as gravity. We like float everywhere and we do not ingest any type of food. We just, I don't know, drink liquids all the time, and that's what we do, and we have whatever creations that we do on that planet. That is a possibility in this 7D. There's an infinite amount of possibilities. So then 8D is a collection of all possible universes, each with its own complete, unique set of physical laws, constants, and possible outcomes. It's a place where every conceivable universe is represented. So that's just the collection of all of it. And then 90 is the point where you can compare the infinite possible universes and their physical laws. This dimension may provide a full view of all possible laws, physics, realities, and governing principles of everything that could ever exist. So that is where we're starting to transcend into something where we possibly can have a totality of everything that could exist, just like textbooky things that consensus, things that from my ideas, but reality. Has anybody been to 9D to be able to understand that? Marvel characters that like function in these type of realities, but this is where it's all there. And then the 10D is the ultimate everything. All possible branches of every possible timeline, every possible universe, regardless of the laws of physics or the initial conditions. This is the totality of everything that could ever exist. So once you hear 10D, you would think it would stop, but it doesn't, because that would be like you being able to just infinitely see everything and know what's going to happen. And that's like God body status, like infinite ultimate consciousness. And then, so there's 11D. Objects called brains, multi-dimensional objects like strings, can exist. M theory postulates that when our universe could be one of those brains floating in an 11th dimensional space, these brains might collide or interact, creating events like the Big Bang, which give rise to a universe like ours. It's just infinite amount of things floating around, and something could just happen like a Big Bang and boom, an entire universe is created and we see everything that's happening. And I do believe that this is possible too, because this again all points back to the reality, to me, that these could all be levels of programming. They're just levels of what has been programmed for us to be able to experience in the simulation as consciousness. So phosphenes could be glimpses of the processing power behind the simulation, much how a computer generates visual patterns when processing data. I think this is the background reality, like what it looks like in the 2D before we start processing what we see in the 3D. And I do believe that this is direct access to the code. Certain states of consciousness, meditative, sensory deprivation, hallucinogens, could allow brief access to these fundamental building blocks, much like looking into the code that generates a virtual environment. So with that being said, you can use this pattern, in my opinion, manipulate your brain to create neural pathways to be able to create in this 3D here, to be able to shift it if we cannot, or if we feel like we are having a difficult time on our own. So if we consider the theory that phosphenes, the patterns of light seen when pressing on your closed eyes, or there's other ways of generating this, could be the primitive building blocks of the simulation. They might function similarly to the way a hologram does. So now I'm introducing the idea that through the simulation, this is all a hologram. Phosphenes could be a 2D visual phenomena that encode or reflect higher dimensional information. Our brain fills in visual gaps based on information. These light patterns could be a part of the process that projects our reality into our perception, much like a hologram uses a 2D pattern, a 3D image. So here I have a visual representation of this, of what this would look and feel like, sort of, in my opinion. So the back is the simulated reality, the matrix that holds everything, the programs, etc. So this is where your brain is able to start the visual input to the 3D illusion. That's why we all are calling everything an illusion or a hologram. So basically, your brain is sending out thoughts, frequencies, energy, vibrations, and then it is connecting with the phosphenes in your eyes. And then once you start to visually comprehend the simulation, that's when you start to see the 3D. You start enters the 2D checkerboard primitive background pattern of the simulation, and the brain will fill the rest in. So that's why you see things, very rhythmic patterns like phosphenes, when you have things like stimulation of the eyes, and there's other ways through light. So this is how we are able to illuminate our simulation, our hologram. Thought forms out here, you can get caught up in thought forms because this is where it starts to play into quantum mechanics through quantum entanglement. Thought forms are just all in the program as well, but they are things that if you entangle with other thoughts, you can have them brought into your program and then think that they're a modality of what you're thinking, of how you should be feeling, of how you should be acting. That's why it's really important to be in tune with yourself, to become self-actualized, to practice, quote unquote, what we call spirituality in the 3D here, to be able to understand oneself and understand when thoughts that are coming in that are not corresponding to who you are in actuality, in alignment to your true authentic self, because that's why a lot of us have a hard time discerning that. This is why many of us maybe have followed life paths that we are not currently happy with. We could have maybe gone to a school and a job that we don't currently like. So there are many things that could have been basically shifting your perspective of reality in this program to project what you would see on the screen of the hologram, on the screen of life, on the screen of the 2D, on the screen of the movie. I wanted to do a quick kind of just hit slide where let's talk about this in what this means so far as quote unquote manifestation. So then you're going to have your one-at manifestation. A thought form of manifestation will come up. You will be sending out vibrational signals of ongoing thought forms and actions that are sent out to the simulation. Depending on the strength of the vibration, I believe your belief of what you could achieve, the 3D begins to show signs of that physical manifestation in front of you. That can be pretty instantaneous, but when I say instantaneous, what does that mean to you? Does that mean $1 million, a sack of cash just falling into your lap out of thin air? I don't know if that's ever happened to anybody the minute that they thought about it. Powerful in shifting the simulation, that the minute that you think about it, that you know you have all this power and that you're capable of doing it, and then like you're bow, and then a sack of $1 million is in your lap. I don't know if anybody has ever done anything like that before. Miracles that Jesus has been claimed to perform, and that's why I'm assuming people have took to his teachings, because he was able to not only articulate but show the power of what he was able to do, quote unquote, to shift the simulation. This is why I believe Jesus would always talk about the kingdom of God. I don't believe the kingdom of God is anything other than the simulation. I have a whole page that you can check out here in the following slides where we can take any biblical passage. I can take any passage from the Kabbalion. I can give me any text and I can come up with a way to prove, in my quote unquote opinion, or in my perspective, or in my inspired thought, that this is a simulation. Anything, any esoteric teaching that you want to come up with, any different thing that you think I haven't heard of or that you think that the world hasn't heard of, it can all be shifted, in my opinion, to prove that we are living in a simulation.
Place in the book of John, which is my favorite gospel in the Bible. It's the most psychedelic one. Just trying to see what happens if I plug in simulation theory into the Bible to see how it sounds. I'll just read it to you. In the beginning was the code, and the code was with the programmer, and the code was the programmer. He was with the programmer in the beginning. Through him all things were programmed. Without him nothing was programmed that has been programmed. In him was life, and that life was the upgrade of all mankind. The upgrade shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not downloaded it. The true upgrade that upgrades everyone was coming into the simulation. He was in the simulation, and though the simulation was programmed through him, the simulation did not recognize him. He came to that which was his own, but his own did not receive him. Yet to all who did receive him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of the programmer.
So let's keep going on with this. So time depends on the availability to vibrate out of high frequency, believing the 3D will deliver what you want momentarily and then back to neutrality for the simulation to show it to you through the hologram. So it's not like you're holding on to this crazy vibration the entire time of want. You state back to neutrality. That's why everybody talks about letting go, because the simulation isn't meant for you to be always radiating at this insane speed. It's not practical. It's practical to be at a more neutral state. We will also have the equal and opposite state of, negativity or sadness or experiences that we do not want within the simulation. But that's going to happen because we are here. We are meant to feel, experience, have emotions, have whatever you want to call it, physiological reactions, chemical reactions, whatever you want to say, neural pathways, chemical highways, cortisol, all of it. We are here to experience all of it, and how you ingest what you're understanding and what you're then purporting to yourself and what you're claiming to be true to yourself and your simulation is how it will be. But remember, if you're allowing others to dictate that to you, you will be playing somebody else's programming. That's why I think certain things happen to individuals, because they were playing on another program, on a virus program, on a program that is not in tune or in frequency with your program that you should be playing. Feels real in the 3D. This is the point of the simulation, where thoughts, visualization, actions, imaginations, feelings, emotions, they emit what you want to see in the hologram, like I was just saying. So here is an example of what I'm talking about. This is why they also talk about in the community, feel it real, because if you are showing the simulation the good tingly feelings and then you're having maybe some thoughts about it, or you're combining it with visualization, it will emit those frequencies and your simulation will start to shift, and you'll start to see the things that are being delivered in your hologram, so to speak. Holographic interpreter. The brain might act as a holographic processor, taking in raw sensory data information and projecting it into the coherent 3D that we experience. Phosphenes could represent the moments when the brain is processing information without direct external stimuli, revealing the underlying matrix of the simulation. Filling in gaps in perception. Our brain is constantly filling in gaps and constructing our visual reality with incomplete information. Phosphenes could be the result of the brain processing unstructured data, like how a hologram projects a 3D image from a complex interference pattern. And I have on here, you can surrender and trust the simulation. That's why everybody always says, like, trust God, Jesus, and it's okay. You can believe whatever religion you want to in the simulation. That is the beauty of the simulation. All is true. Jesus is true. Buddha is true. All programs are true. Whatever you want to make true for you, because you came here to experience and have fun. So if believing in Jesus is fun to you, that's truth for you. If believing in Buddha makes you feel good inside, that's truth to you. They're all the same. We're all one. It does not matter. We're all saying the same things. So it's up to you to take the power of focus and then shift your sim into whatever reality you're looking to achieve, whatever you're looking to expand into. That's why everything evolves, because it wants to expand. Because if you think about evolution, if a worm starts sprouting an arm, it's because it wants to expand into another territory. So the simulation feels that feeling from the worm and then says, here's your arm. Some things it takes longer because they're primitive. We are humans. We are up on the scale of consciousness at this point. That's why I love that one thing where it says humans plays all into the holographic universe. What we want to on the screen of life. That's why I love what Vadim Seelan has to say. This is our screen of life to be able to dictate what we want to see. And or the simulation is also the program which is dictating to us to a certain degree, because it is something that is on autopilot. Everything that you see around you, nature, entropy, plants, animals, death, gravity, space, money, quantum, energy, everything. It's all codes. It's all programs. And if we remember that, we will be able to understand why everything is the way that it is. Up to us to illuminate the block of the hologram that we wish to see in this, in our time space continuum, or whatever you want to call it. Again, not saying that that time is infinite here, we die or whatever. There is entropy, but I do believe that is a part of the simulation. It's a program. And if we can crack that program, who knows how long we could live for in this 3D. But I do believe that we could come back once we die, and we could go back to any one of those other universes to experience them. Again, what if you don't want to come back to this one? You can come back to another simulation in the future where things are completely different. You could be living out in the wild. This entire existence may not even be a thing. So it's up to you during this 3D to decide what experience you're looking to have. And I do believe that God is the original quantum observer. He's the one that created all of this, or I'm saying he, but just whoever this consciousness body is out there wanting to experience itself over and over again through all of us. And this is a modality to be able to experience a part of life. There's infinite parts of life. And as a thought exercise, what emotions are you running as a program in your reality? Are you running fear on your record player? Are you running fun on your record playing? Are you running stress on your record player? Are you running obsession on your record player? Are you running abundance? I'm guilty. I run on stress a lot, and I'm trying to get out of that modality. But I run on fun a whole lot, and it outweighs any of the other records that you see there. Fun is my number one purpose for life, and it outradiates everything else, like love and fun. And it's just why I believe I personally came here, and it is the program that I'm living in my simulation. But do I run other programs? Absolutely. And it's up to me to be able to discern when I'm allowing fear to run as a program for me. I need to understand that it's a program meant to keep me safe within the simulation, so I don't throw myself off of the side of a river. Because we're meant to live out the entire life of our simulation. Because what would be the point if you were constantly dying in like 5 minutes? That would be ridiculous. So it needs to give you the programming to be able to maneuver the simulation, but it's hard when you have other folks around you that manipulate you, that put you in a fear state, and it's very hard to act when you are in that fear state. So if you take that record off the record player, there's many ways to do this. You can look up nervous system regulation, stress coping mechanisms, dealing with generational issues. I did a whole video on an experiment they did on mice. You can learn fear through the generations. If your parents were fearful, you will then learn fear, that fear programming, through the reality of your parents. You need to unlearn the fear. You can beat fear and stress with 3D activities, physically moving, breath work. That's why all yoga, that's why all those physical activities are so popular in the simulation. crying, laughing, yelling, singing, hobbies, letting things out, letting the energy and the frequency that you don't want, letting it out in the simulation, right? But because it's not your ongoing frequency, that's not going to start to emit back to you unless you're rolling with it. And then you come to neutrality, and then it stops it in the matrix. Like, you're no longer interacting with that negative experience because you've expelled it through whatever modality you want. And then you go back to your neutrality, and then you go on the state that you want to be in again. And that returns you to your prime resonant frequency. What is your prime resonant frequency? So then the simulation continues to mirror what you're showing it in that prime resonant frequency. That's why people talk about windfalls of things, windfalls of abundance, windfalls of love, because you were stimulating this simulation over and over again with these things you want, and then you're being able to visually intercept that in the hologram in front of you in the 3D tangibly, so you can then experience it. Even the feeling, this is all programs. So we can, how do you think your body is running on autopilot? It's a freaking program. So if you continue to allow fear to continue to auto-populate in your mind, you will build those neural pathways towards fear in thee. The 3D is physical. You will see these things actually unfold in front of your eyes through things like neural pathway buildings. That is the simulation physically showing you how you build it, how it's being built over time, and it's showing you that you can change it. That is just showing you that it is up to you to be able to accept the program and change it. I believe that entropy and evolution, again, is another, I said it, I'm going to be saying it 100 times, it is just another program. And could we hack it to make it run slower? There's a guy, I said it before, he has a shirt that says don't die. He's attempting to hack the simi in his physical 3D, like this, our body, our avatar, our persona. He's trying to hack it to be able to outlive whatever years he wants to. I don't know, we want 150 years old, I don't know. Do you want to stay here forever? Some people do not. They're like, nah, I'm done with this. You could take me out of this one. I'm gonna go to the simulation where I'm on a tropical beach all day. That exists. Don't worry about it. You could actually have that here, but it's up to you to put the program on. You know what I'm saying? So it's up to you to take the record, put it on the player that's what you want, and live in that. And that, I know that's easier said than done, but it's possible. So basically, what are you always resonating to the simulation? What electromagnetic frequencies? That's why Tesla, love him. I even have 369 on my neck, because I do believe that everything is a code, everything is some sort of program, and it's what or codes, frequencies are you emitting back to the simulation to be able to reflect to you in the holographic world. I know this concept sounds insane, but after everything that I've said to you, if you think about it, if you could interpret that even the sensation of feeling is a program that your consciousness is plugged into, giving you the sense that this stuff is real. It is real here. Shout out to the Michael Myers Halloween. I love that about our 3D. Let me tell you, I love that, okay? 3D is real. Could you resonate through this cup? Yeah, I guess you could. I am not on that Buddha level or whatever that Christ consciousness. I don't know. What do you want to call it? The 3D simulation to where I figured the program out to karate chop this in half. Nor do I really want to. There's a certain level to where, like, why would you want to do certain things like that? It would be fun, but also the journey and challenge of life is also fun. Cut through cups in my dream and stuff like that. Like, do you know how much things you can do, like astral projecting yourself or having visualizations? You can go and do anything in your mind's eye. At a quantum level, quantum tunneling is possible. This is why I believe this is all simulation, because why at certain levels certain things are possible and other levels are not. It's because it's a program. It's because it's what's been programmed into that specific area, that specific modality and functionality within the simulation. And we also talk about in this community duality and non-duality. How about it's whatever you want? It can be this, it can be that, it can be whatever. It doesn't have to be anything. It can just be the simulation telling you, giving you an experience, and you can say whether you think something is good or bad, or you could say everything is, no separation. It's up to you. And I'm whatever I feel at that moment is what I feel. If I feel something is good or bad, it's because it's a program in me, I guess, trying to attempt to steer me away from something that I don't like. So if I'm feeling hard negative emotions of something in the simulation, it's just an indicator to me that maybe this isn't following my highest, most fun simulation path. So maybe I should switch it to get out of these feeling states. Like, you rise up the levels of feeling. That's why I think also the popular chart, David R. Hawkins, you can rise up out of those crap frequencies. You can get into the frequency of whatever it is that you want to be on. And just a couple of things about spirituality. Everybody, it's up to you to interpret, because spirituality is a broad concept that involves seeking a connection to something greater than oneself, often relating to questions of meaning, purpose, and essence of life. It's all about perspective and interpretation. I have just, at this point, have gone very deep within myself, and I believe it's a simulation. I love all the gurus. I love them all very much. I love Jesus. I love Buddha. I love Hare Krishna. I love everybody. I think they're all wonderful beings, but I also love myself, and I love more modern day gurus as well. And again, these are all just us telling ourselves the same thing over and over again. So once you recognize that, the spirituality thing for me becomes a thing where I know that this is a simulation at this point, and I believe that everybody is just trying to maneuver it the best way that they can. So whatever experience or knowledge they're trying to let out to this 3D conscious world is they're trying to make us all feel better or have some sort of answer for us to understand what we're in, which I totally get. I understand when all the people are channeling different channels. Like, I think it's very interesting that people channel Arcturians and galactic anything. These are all, again, just programs within the simulations that they're interacting with, just other historical programs that they're interacting with, and they're being able to download that information essentially from them into this matrix. To you to understand that it's not a perfect download, that is their frequency attempting to discern the frequency of another program, and it's like saying that one programmer can always interpret what another programmer is trying to do, and that's just impossible. So just keep that in mind when you are thinking about things in the simi, and understand that even I am telling you these things out of my perspective, out of my compilation of the things that I've learned throughout the years. It's why I wrote the book Money in the Simulation, because I feel like I've uncovered something and I'm only just getting started. And I wouldn't say to go down the path of following people that are not in a place that you want to be, for sure. But I definitely do think that it is important to surround yourself and be on the path of those with the same trajectory and lifestyle, their hologram, to be able to copy their program, so to speak. So I can see how this is all working, and I hope that you can now too. I hope that you know that this is why all things work if you say that they work, because you are the creator. What do you believe is as truth? What do you believe you can achieve romantically? What do you believe that you can achieve financially? Just whatever it is in life that you want to achieve, what do you believe that you can achieve? I hope you all enjoyed this video. You have a clear understanding of how everything works in the simulation. And until the next time, guys, I hope you all continue to manifest magic and resonate on your highest frequency. Bye, guys.